UC application. And again, it's important that you guys put the right information on there. So one of the things that happened last year, there's a young lady at Mount Pleasant that on her UC application, she put everything as honors. Okay, so she got admitted. She got admitted to, in March she found out she got admitted to UC Davis and UC Santa Cruz. Unfortunately, we asked for her grades in June, and we found out that Eastside doesn't offer honors, and there's no such thing as honors PE. Her admission was taken away.
Honors?
Right?
I'll take that.
So the moral of the story is you want to make sure you're prepared. You want to make sure that you put everything you put on your application is true. We'll go through the personal statement and we'll talk a little bit about submitting the application. So if you guys haven't seen the deadline, the calendar deadlines for the application, here they are. The UC application is available right now. How many of you guys have gone online and taken a look at it? How many of you guys think it's really hard to fill out? Really? All right. So in November, next Thursday, you guys can actually go ahead and submit your UC application if you're ready, or you have all the way up until November 30th. My advice to every senior that I ever talk to is you don't get extra credit for submitting your application on November 1st, and you don't get penalized for submitting your application on November 30th. You want to submit your UC application and personal statement when you feel it's the best representation of you. Okay? Several years ago, I was working in San Francisco with a student that submitted his UC application on November 1st because his dad told him, you get extra credit and you get your application in first. Unfortunately, his personal statements were almost the same, so he didn't tell us anything new on the second personal statement, and he wasn't admitted to any UC. And he was had a really good GPA, really good test scores, lots of activities, but he didn't tell us enough about himself. Okay? If you haven't taken the SATs or ACTs or the subject tests, if you're going to take them, you have up until December to take those tests. And then in January, if you apply to UC Berkeley or UCLA, you might get something called an augmented review questionnaire. And that just means that we saw something on your UC application that we want more information about. Okay? So you didn't answer some of the question, and we want more information about you. In late January, we want you guys to go back and update your test scores. And then in March and May, that's when you either find out that you've gotten into a UC, or in May, that's when you tell the UCs which one you're going to. Any questions about the timeline? So in terms of applications, all the UCs will get the same application. So once you submit an application, every UC will get the same personal statement, the same grades that you put on, the same activities. Each UC is going to evaluate your application differently because some are more selective. Some will look a little bit more at your activities and your personal statements. Some will look more. Some majors will look more at your grades and test scores. So you want to go ahead and put everything on there and don't self-select yourself out. So you don't want to put on a UC. If you're applying to UCLA, you don't want to say UC Berkeley is the best UC out there. Okay? You just want to say, this is why I want to go to college, this is what I want to major. In terms of being admitted, there is no simple answer. There's no SAT score that's going to get you in automatically. There's no GPA. There's not a perfect list of activities or community services that you can do. If you overcome obstacles, that doesn't necessarily mean you're in to any of the UCs. If you have a 4.3 unweighted or a 4.3 GPA, it's not going to get you in, per se. If you meet the minimum requirements, you may still get in. So I've worked with students that have gone to some pretty good high schools that haven't taken any APs or honors courses, but were admitted to Cal. And the reason that they were admitted was because they were able to write and tell us of why they didn't take those AP or honors courses. So we look at everything when we admit you guys. And we do that through something called comprehensive review. We look at your grades, your test scores, what you are as a student. We look at the context of your background. So we look at what you wrote in your personal statement. We look at what you write what the UC system has about the school. So we have a list of the classes that Independence offers. Okay? So we know almost what classes you guys are going to take. You want to take your time and fill out everything. You want to fill out as much as you can on the application and the personal statement, because that's your chance to tell us about yourselves. We're not going to call you up and say, hey, you didn't tell us about you didn't put any activities down. Why? We're not going to do that. It's up to you guys to go ahead and do that. In terms of comprehensive review, this is just a list of the things that we do look at. We look at improvement in academic performance. We look at courses you've taken, and we look at the rigor of your senior year. So you want to make sure that your senior year, you're taking the same amount of classes or same type of classes that you took your sophomore and junior year. Because senior year does count in a lot of the admissions decisions. Any questions about anything so far? No? So filling out the application, one of the things that you guys want to do if you don't have one already is go ahead and make an email account just for your college information. So after you submit your applications to the UCs on November 30th, all the communications that UCs do is going to be through email. And a lot of that email is going to be time sensitive. So if UCLA wants more information about you because you are applying for nursing and they send you an email, you have to respond to their the request for information within a certain amount of time. If you don't respond for that request, they'll go ahead and move on. So you want to make sure that you do have an email that you check on a semi-regular basis, and then it's not, that's somewhat professional. We don't want to be sending an email to some, baby boo-boo email. Yeah.
So what would be like the time limit, basically? Would you say maybe a week to respond to that email, or 24 hours, 40 hours?
Usually we'll give you, it depends on what it is. So financial aid, it could be, if it's really important, it could be a 24-hour turnaround, or it could be longer than that. It just depends on what we want. So you just want to make sure that you're looking. If you look every other day, you should be okay. How many of you guys are thinking of applying? Sorry. When you look at your campus selection and major selection, one of the things that you guys want to do is you want to apply to as many UCs as you think you want to go to, that you can see yourself at. You don't want to just apply to one UC or two UCs. So last year, I was telling the other group that last year UC Berkeley and UCLA had an admit rate of about 20%, right? So there's a lot of students then that were rejected from UCLA and UC Berkeley that could have been good students at UC San Diego, UC Davis, UC Merced, UC Riverside, Irvine, Santa Barbara, but a lot of them didn't apply because they thought, I have this GPA, this SAT scores, I'm automatically going to get admitted to one of the more selective schools. You want to apply as broadly as you can, and you want to pick schools that you think you can see yourself being there, right? So if you hate hot weather, you're definitely not going to want to choose UC Riverside because it's in the middle of the desert. But if you hate the beach, then you're definitely not going to want to choose San Diego or Santa Barbara. In terms of major selection, for the most part, UCs don't use your major to admit you to a school. Okay? So we're not going to look at your major and say, oh, he chose art, so he's not admitted to Berkeley. Okay? The only exceptions are if you choose anything that has any major in the College of Engineering or College of Chemistry at most of the UCs. And the College of Engineering and Chemistry at most of the UCs are really, really impacted. Okay? And only admit a certain amount of students. For instance, UC's nuclear engineering program only admits 8 freshmen a year. So you want to make sure that if you're thinking about nuclear engineering, that you apply to all the engineering schools. You just don't say, no, I want to go to Berkeley for nuclear engineering, and I know I'm going to be that one of 8. Okay? Any questions on that? Yeah.
If you apply to engineering and to like how is it really? Does that make it harder to get into than if you say like you apply for dance or something?
Let's just put it this way: if you apply to dance, and you really want to go to engineering, you're gonna have, and you get admitted to Cal in dance, you're gonna have to show us that you can handle college level math and physics classes at Cal before we'll transfer you to engineering.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
you can't just like apply for.
I mean, there's students that that'll apply to dance and get admitted and then want to transfer to engineering. But like I said, you've got to show us that you can handle the calculus, the physics, the chemistry at Cal before our dean of college engineering is going to let you in. Okay. So it can be done, but it's not easy, and it's actually probably a lot harder than applying into engineering.
Sorry, I still don't really understand. So if you do want to major in engineering, like, you could...
If you want to major in engineering, you want to really look at your grades and your GPA and your SAT scores and your SAT 2s and the classes you've taken, because the engineering programs in chemistry are looking for specifically for certain grades and GPAs. So, and it's a lot, but if you really, that's what you want to do, then go ahead, you're more power to you. It's just, there's some students that will say, I want to do engineering, but not really want to do engineering. Any questions on that? All right, so some of the things that you guys can do to prepare for the application is get ready early. So do your research. So if you're thinking about going to San Diego, there's 6 different colleges down in San Diego, at UC San Diego. You want to go ahead and look at what each college has, okay? You want to look at the majors that the different UCs have, right? Because I'm going to go back to your example of engineering. If you're thinking engineering, most of the UCs have engineering. UC Santa Barbara's engineering program is probably next to one of the top engineering programs in the United States, right? So you want to look at all those options. You don't want to say, I want to go to Berkeley because Berkeley is the #1 public school in the world, but if you're applying in engineering, you may or may not have a really good chance of getting in, depending on your preparation. You want to, again, email communication is really important. We're not going to call you guys up. We're going to send everything through email. And you want to get somebody other than your brother and sister or cousin to go ahead and look at your UC personal statement and revise it. Because one of the things that you guys will have, one of the biggest challenges you guys will have as seniors is writing your personal statement. And the reason I say that is you guys are so conditioned to write to turn in essays in a certain way that UCs are not looking for that. We're looking for you guys to talk about yourselves. All right, how many of you guys have gone on to the UC application so far? So for those of you that haven't, this is the main page of the UC application. You can start, it's available now. I would say go home today or this weekend and get on there and log in and start playing with it, because a lot of the information you can put in now and it saves you time. So when you start your application, we ask you to tell us what your social security number is. And the reason we do that is we want to try to match you guys up with financial aid later on. If you don't have a social security number, just there's something on there where you can tell us that you don't have a social security number. Okay? But for the most part, financial aid uses this information to match you up for your financial aid offers later on. And it makes it easier for us. Then we don't have to send you emails saying, what's your financial aid, what's your social security number, and we need the information by tomorrow. In terms of choosing a major, so like I said earlier, your major really doesn't have a big impact on your admissions to schools unless it's engineering or chemistry. For the most part, some UCs will let you pick alternate majors. So you can pick dance and English at UCLA, or dance and computer science. It really doesn't make a difference on what you put. Okay. If you're undecided, it's not going to hurt your admissions to any of the UCs. We don't look at students that are undecided and say they don't know what they want to do, so why should we admit them? We look at it as basically not being able to make a choice in, and we're not going to penalize you for that. Any questions on the majors? So, like I was saying, how many of you guys are thinking about applying to San Diego? Does anybody know the difference between the 6 colleges? So you know, they have different emphasize. So you guys are going to want to, if you're applying to San Diego, you want to look at the different colleges, because one of the things that they do is they group you, some of the colleges will group you by dorms, by your interests. So you don't want to be interested in business if, in a business, you don't want to be interested in pre-business or business administration and in an arts themed dorm, okay? Or I would assume you wouldn't be, but some of you guys may be. So you want to go ahead and look at that, and you want to look at all the UCs and see what they offer, because a lot of students will say, you know, my major's not offered at a certain UC, and then you tell them, oh, okay, scroll down more, and then they'll say, oh, there it is. Yeah.
You know how there's like a minor? Does that like affect your chances? Like, does it like influence admission?
So how many of you guys, that's a good question. How many of you guys are thinking about double majoring or minoring? So for the admissions process, forget that you guys ever thought about double majoring or minoring. You don't have the opportunity to tell us that you're going to double major or even minor. When you get admitted to the UCs and you're actually there, that's when you go and tell your counselor, hey, I want a double major or I want a minor. Okay? Any other questions about major choices? All right. So the next section is you guys only have to pay attention if you need money for college. And most of you guys should need money for college. This section right here, the scholarship section, as a high school senior, you can pick 16 different scholarship categories, right? And what happens is these are all on-campus based financial aid programs. And what the campus will do is if you get admitted to those UC, and that UC offers that scholarship, they'll automatically give you that to you, okay? So, as high school seniors, what you guys want to do is go ahead and go into the scholarship section and choose 16 different areas. Because I can guarantee you that you guys should be able to find scholarships in that section that apply to you. There's major-based, there's location-based. There's a scholarship for Eastside Union High School District seniors, okay? So all of you guys can check that box. So this is one way that you guys get financial aid and that you guys don't have to worry about money, okay? Because the schools will automatically put it into your financial aid packages. Any questions on the scholarships? Okay. How many of you guys are going to be the first? How many of you have parents that never went to a college in the United States? So a 4-year college.
In the United States.
In the United States. Never went, never graduated. Okay. For those of you guys that raise your hands, you guys are going to be considered first-generation college students. There's a program at every single UC called EOP, which is designed to help first-generation college students navigate and succeed at the UCs that they're at. So they're just like your counselors here at Independence. They can help you with classes, professors, dorms. If you decide to go to grad school, they'll give you grad school waivers and so on. Yeah.
So say I have 2 sisters that are already in college, so my parents didn't graduate from a 4-year college. Can I still check the box for
Yeah.
UC?
So if your parents did not graduate from a 4-year college, you're still considered first generation for the UCs.
So that excludes 2-year colleges or 3-year colleges, right?
4-year college. So if your parents don't have a bachelor's degree, then you're considered first generation.
Oh, wait, so if my parents went to college in like India, does that
4 years college in the United States.
so does that mean I'm first generation?
Yes.
You're so cool.
Okay, any other questions? Because a lot